Welcome to the home of good news. This is Stories Untold. I am Pule Mulebati. Thank you for choosing us as your source of information today. Today we commemorate Heritage Month and we follow stories of two individuals who are part and parcel of the Cape Wine Master Academy. These are the stories of Lethabo and Xolani, and we begin our journey with Xolani today. Let's go straight into it.
Xolani started his journey in the food and beverage space back in 2005. He has since founded a few restaurants alongside his two friends and has also produced the Amari Wine brands with one of his industry colleagues.
I've got two other brothers. We met at varsity and friends we're family. And we always had a dream of how do we impact society better. And one way to impact society is through jobs. But our passion, and maybe I bulldozed a little bit, is food and beverage. So one restaurant is called Tattoo. There's three of us, so it's Tattoo, so three. But also it should be your third place. You go to work, after work, you can go home, or you must come here. It's a place where you feel at home, and also the menu and what we're cooking is things that we grew up with. On Sundays, we're doing 7 Color Sundays. So you've grown up with this, and you can think back, was we working in this concrete jungle in Joburg? For some of us, Makulu are far away, or sadly, they're not with us anymore. But if you can find an establishment where you can have beetroot, coleslaw, potatoes, roast chicken, spin, all of these things that would happen, obviously when you visit and maybe on Christmas, and that's the ethos downstairs. Friends of mine.
His journey took off when he was still a young man, growing up in the Eastern Cape.
Is that we enjoy barbecue. As a sommelier, you taste wine, and you need to, so you'll taste and use a spittoon. Sometimes maybe it's nice and you don't use the spittoon and you're like, ah. So I was at an interview at a restaurant in Cape Town with my dad, and part and parcel of the interview process was that the chef, and this was at Aubergine, with Chef Harold Schmidt, and he said, bring your dad to come and see what this is about so he can understand what we're doing here. Like, fantastic, no problem. Also, free dinner, top 10 restaurant, tick, 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 tick. Problem was, bring your dad. No problem. I brought dad when I arrived, so now we're sitting and it's a wine paired dinner. Dad doesn't drink, he's never drank. So now the wine pairings are coming. I need to see if they're doing this right or not, because I was applying for a sommelier job. So I think I had 3 or 4 or 5 sips of the different glasses, tasting. I wasn't really gone, but I was happier, smiling more. Got in the car anyway. Dad was like, yeah, but because you speak it, you live it, you evoke it, So borderline being disciplined and being congratulated, which I guess happens with our parents.
His love for food and wine was nurtured during his days on the Cape Wine Masters program.
The Cape Wine Academy journey, it's been years. So back when I was learning about gooseberries and asparagus at chef school, the course we're doing was a Cape Wine Academy course with Sinead Exton and her husband on a farm and a wine called Bartu Exton. So when I spent the time learning and going through that education, I furthered it more. Which fast forward many years, I won't say how many years because I'm not going to show age, I'm to say young, many years later, and now I'm on the Cape Wine Masters journey. And the main reason for doing the Cape Wine Masters journey is that you can never know enough. And if you need to learn and really broaden your horizons, because we learn about wines from Hungary, for example, in some of these courses. I've never been to Hungary. So my way of traveling the world is also always opening a textbook and being able to taste wines that come from there. Then you kind of have a cultural appreciation of what they're doing. But if you're not furthering theoretically and practically the knowledge base, you're then limited to how you can give back and properly impact the local communities and the industry. And her main thing,
we asked Xolani, what is it that is keeping this industry alive?
Celebrating our heritage, who we are, where we are, and all menus and vibes and music speak to that.
Welcome back to the show. Today we thought we should do things slightly different. We are a little bit more relaxed and we are in a celebratory mood. We are of course educating as well as celebrating individuals who are doing great things in their own right. Today we are looking at the Cape Wine Master program and how they have been able to attract young black winemakers. Right now though, we are going to introduce you to a young female winemaker by the name of Lethabo.
The Stories Untold team visited the Groot Constantia, which is said to be one of the oldest vineyards in South Africa. Groot Constantia was established over 100 years ago and is said to produce some of the country's best wines.
So today we're here at Groot Constantia, which is the oldest farm in South Africa, and this is where wine was produced, and we celebrate the first day of wine production in South Africa here every year. And in fact, South Africa is the only country that really knows when its wine industry started. That is something which is very pertinent to our wine heritage, because you know, a lot of people think that South Africa is a new world wine country, but we're actually a very old wine country if we look back at our history.
Recently, the Cape Wine Masters celebrated their 40th anniversary with over 100 wine masters produced thus far. They still uphold the original methods of producing fine wine.
It was a long journey to get to today, 40 years after the first Cape Wine Masters graduated in South Africa. It started with the formation of the Cape Wine Academy in 1979, and we had to follow all the courses of the Cape Wine Academy at that stage to be able to enter the study program for Cape Wine Masters. That happened at the beginning of 1982, and the first exams were written in 1983 in October that year. So it took 2 years for a group of about 9 people to write the exams, and out of the 9, 3 of us graduated in November 1983.
Students in the food and wine industry face challenges such as finances, lack of resources, life experiences, and tertiary education. The Cape Wine Master Vision 2030 aims to eliminate these obstacles.
And today, with the graduation of 2 more, we are standing on 113, 40 years later.
Cape Wine Academy teaches a lot about South African wines in the regions. Even how much millimeters of rain happen in Stellenbosch in the growing season, you know? So we can't lose that. That is where I believe, and that's where my journey started as a sommelier, and it's still continuing as a wine professional, is we start there. We start with certificate, the intro course, certificate course. That's a good basis. Then we can start also jumping onto the global courses. Everything and everyone has a space.
So Vision 2030 is our vision and our mission to counter the European wine culture that has basically established itself in South Africa. We've been producing wine for about 300 years, but the modern South African wine industry is, let's say, 50 years old. And we really need to get to a stage to try and understand what it means to produce and drink wine in Africa. What does an African wine culture look like? And the only way we can really address that question is to ensure that we've got a diversified membership in the Institute of Cape Wine Masters, but that we know each member who is part of the Institute has got there through their own academic excellence. And then we can really try and understand what it means to grow the culture of drinking wine in South Africa responsibly, but for people to be proud of our own South African wine industry, and then to understand that there's various job opportunities and career opportunities within the industry, right through the production of wine, straight to marketing, ambassadorship, and agritourism.
We've got a whole young generation of sommeliers and also people that are seeking work in the wine industry and often end up in tasting rooms, and that's very often the first time that they're exposed to wine. And of course that is where the little bug bites, and they all want to know more, because the more they know, the more they can impart their knowledge to the people that visit the farms and make it a worthwhile experience. So we found quite a lot of young people joining the courses at the Cape Wine Academy and then implementing that knowledge. And it's so lovely to see that we've got people that have decided to go on, especially where where wine has not been part of their culture.
Lethabo, a Cape Wine Masters candidate, took us through her experience as a winemaker.
So Lethabo is a breath of fresh air. She has got a permanent smile on her face. She works in the wine industry in Gauteng, but when she joined the program of the Cape Wine Masters, we do a lot of the workshops and such tastings here in Cape Town, and I've seen her every time when we've done that, and of course I do the brandy part of it, so it's always a pleasure to have Lethabo there, and I have seen growth in her since last year when she first started.
The Wine Academy was absolutely fabulous in terms of accessibility to wine as a whole. I discovered wanting to study wine via culinary because I did the enology module at culinary school, and I discovered that actually you can have a career when, you know, because we get exposed to sommeliers and wine professionals, wine judges and the likes, and it is through that I discovered there are people that do wine professionally. And because I'd always had a passion for wine and I'd always had a love and affinity for everything wine, I decided then, once I completed that, this is the next step for me. And at the time, of course, the academy was also in Joburg, because I'm originally from Pretoria, not so accessible. So it included a lot of commitment and a lot of travel down to the Cape for me. But it's because I was so passionate about it. And that's what drew me to the Cape Wine Academy and then to the Institute of Cape Wine Masters.
What inspired this Limpopo-born girl to get into the wine industry?
When you look at traditional African food that can be presented idyllically with wine and paired idyllically with wine, because our environment allows us to make wine that is suitable for what we eat, and generally, even historically, wine has been made for food, and South Africa has bine making great strides in bringing it down and bringing it into the South African heritage and culture, and I'm hoping it can only get better from here. The strides are being made, the efforts are being taken, and we're doing great. We can do better, but we will continue to do great.
Welcome back on this specific leg of the show today. We are focusing on the business side of wine making, and we're also looking at the empowerment aspect of it. We hear that from Xolani and Lethabo.
Both Xolani and Lethabo believed that the winemaking business is a viable one, and that there is room for young black South Africans in the industry.
It depends on exposure. So how much of something do you know? And there's always that fear of the unknown. I mean, on one side, and then on the other side, Port St. John's, Eastern Cape and Western Cape. And in both parts, one is a township and the other one happens to be a rural area. And also an urban component would have been growing up in Tat. But if in any of those areas I walk around the street, I'm like, I'm a sommelier, you know? It's lost, no one's going to know, no one's going to understand. Talking about wine training, it's not going to be there. But luckily, years ago with Cape Wine Academy, we did foundational training between Ikokuletu, Walanga, and Mitchell's Plain. And therefore, those students who did not know about this world, that you can actually earn a living from it, some of them are still working in the industry, but they were able to learn about it, pursue it with the support, and then succeed.
Lethabo believes that through her journey with Wine Masters, she will be able to pave a way for other young Black South Africans to see possibilities in this industry.
I'm hoping with this it will ignite inspiration to South Africans as a whole, far and wide, in terms of the possibilities of wine, because I think even when people get to experience wine when they start out and access it, they don't really think about where it started and where it's going. They enjoy it in their glasses, but they don't think about the journey leading up to what's in their glasses. And I'm hoping as they see this, they can see that this is actually one of those careers, because remember also the beverage industry and the wine industry is one of those difficult things to market to upcoming matriculants because age restrictions. So I'm hoping that they see it and they see it as a career and something they can actually look into, because the industry is open. The industry needs people and it's open to people coming into it, and if they're willing to work at it and getting into the wine industry, it's a fantastic one, and I hope it inspires people. There's various institutions today from which you can study, and today as we celebrate 40 years of the Institute of Cape Wine Masters, which is a phenomenal achievement as a whole, I hope we'll then start seeing people like me that knew nothing about wine but come up and actually follow through with it and put in the work to get to a point where they too can be celebrated for such a achievement.
Can we get an edible flower? Something just comfortable.
Just like Lethabo, Xolani is also intentional about taking others with him on this journey.
It's just trying to change one person at a time. It's not even, I'd love to touch and impact every single person in this industry, but what education has done for me is that I've been able to work abroad. I've been able to see places that I'd ordinarily not have visited and not have been able to see. I've tasted wines and old wines, which are some of the most expensive in the world. But also from me and being in that passionate zone for it, it's a life-altering moment. We now try and we run some training courses, so we'll also be doing some education and training for Cape Wine Academy. And why that's important is because I want to take the experience that I've got and share it with guys, especially if they're starting in the industry. If you happen to be a waiter, you happen to, even if you're in scullery, wherever you are, just to know that it's possible. I'm not saying that I'm the most perfect example. All I'm saying is, this is what I've done, and because I've done X, Y, and Z, I have been able to work in these different places globally. I've worked in these top establishments in South Africa, and over and above all of that, I'm happy because I'm doing my passion. So we need role models, we need examples, but I make sure that we back that with the education component to it and the practical experience.
His impact is evident in the testimonies of those who have had the privilege of learning from him.
Xolani and I have been working together for quite a number of years on different projects, and when he opened up this restaurant along with his partners, he reached out to me and he said there's an opportunity, and after working with him after so many years, I jumped at it, and 2 Decembers in, here I am. With the training aspect, it's very 360. Xolani is a person who wants to throw you in the deep end in a good way, just so that he can assess your strengths. And that training enabled me to actually speak about things in the wine industry, that's for one, with confidence, and also delving into the industry of hospitality and what that means. And a lot of our aspects of this industry related to compliance. So there's a lot of work that I did with compliance, there's a lot of work that I did with the different seaters as well in terms of getting accreditation. And when we opened up the space, there's also compliance things that needed to be put in place before we started operating. So having that history of working with Xolani enabled me to really keep the ball rolling
in all the aspects and all of the locations and the different industries, companies rather, that he is affiliated with.
As part of our work integrated program, we have to work somewhere. So you go to industry, and fortunately, I knew X and I could come work here as a chef. So I'm doing my industry work here, and I've been placed for a good, 18 weeks. But I could work longer if I do impress, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it thus far. My tenure here has been very well. He's grooming me very well, because honestly, it's not just about being in the kitchen. He's grooming me in terms of how to run a business, as I am an aspiring restaurateur. I've got a structure up, but I don't know what I'm doing. And he's showing me what to do. So I'll probably help more lives as well, because he's employed so many people, and that's all I want to do as well. He is so stern about everything, and he's very decisive. So with everything that he does, he always looks for us to sort of outsource locally in terms of products, for example. He always looks for the younger youth and so forth. So for me, that is nice and empowering, just as a youth member, as to say, But that's what I like the most about him.
Like myself, there are other people in this business currently that Xolani has met in the past, in their various different functions previously, who are now in the business. People in the wine industry, sommeliers, people in the restauranting industry as well, who are restaurant consultants who help new restaurant owners help put in systems and processes and able to run the operations really of the business. So he's also female forward, because I think he understands that once you bring a female into a business, you're able to provide structure, number one, and also you multiply. And there's a certain longevity and consistency when you bring women into your business, and he's got a lot of us that are in here, young South Africans who have an aspiration to be one day restaurant owners. And in his training of either food and beverage, either food rather in the back of office, or beverage front of office and service on the floor, you're able to have the confidence to speak to people through the rigorous training that we do, and the confidence to actually go out.
And what would be your message to him?
To my boss?
Yeah.
To Chef X. Thank you for telling me to figure it out all the time. Whenever I'm stumbling, figure it out. That's all. You figure it out. Yeah, thank you for that.
We have come to the end of our show today. Very, very inspirational, with a nice twist of the lifestyle aspect to it. You see, we are a very, very versatile platform. If you have a story of your own that you would like to share with us, go ahead and send us those DMs on social media. It's at Stories Untold SABC. I'm also going home to sip some wine, but this time I'll do it differently, because I know about the empowerment that this business has in store for young black winemakers. Until then, goodbye.